This video will demonstrate the Safer People Importer and how to use it. This is an application or a tool written in Python and uses the Safer REST APIs to import people. It offers the ability to import not only images but metadata along with the images. I'm going to explain this tool. There are two ways you can use it. One is through a compiled application. That application compiles all of the Python libraries into a single executable so that you don't need to install Python. It has all the dependencies prepackaged into the executable. So you can, there's two ways you can run the application. One is a graphical interface. The other is a command line tool, and I'll demonstrate both. It's available on Mac and Windows. The Mac build should run on Linux as well, though I don't think I've tried it. So I'll go ahead and launch the GUI version on the Mac, and I'll demonstrate the Windows one in a second as well, just to demonstrate that runs and what it looks like. So when you run it, in the compile version, because it's compiled, it's going to load all the libraries, so it takes a little while to load. You may even notice on the very first time you load it, it's going to take even longer than this. When you load it, it's going to allow you some different options. You can set an image folder of where the images are, so I'll select that, and find the right directory. And there's some test data in here, so we'll use that. So I'll select this images folder. The images folder has some good images and some failed images. You can see the fail face. So this is basically some test data. I'll select that, and then you can either ask it to generate data for the images. So what it'll do is generate an XLS file that has the list of images and the column on the left, and you can then end a bunch of empty columns where you can fill out the metadata that Safer allows. You can also uncheck this if you already have a data file, and you can say I want to select my data file, and that will allow you to then in one step process the images and import the metadata. The reason for this generate data from images, which I'll demonstrate, is that it generates that output file, which then you can fill in, or at least get an example of what the input file should look like if you are importing metadata as well. There's a couple of options. You can run it in analysis mode only, so that will allow you to just kind of test it out, not add any images to Safer. The other is if it finds any low quality images, it'll move into a separate directory, and that's convenient if you want to reprocess those images. So I think I'll leave that checked, and we'll show you how that works. So I'm going to run it in the generate data from images mode, and we've got everything selected. We've got all the images selected. We'll go over here and we'll go into the test data directory, and we can see what's happening. It's going to generate some output files as well, and I'll explain those once it's done. So I think I'm just going to get out, and you need to set some settings. So you want to connect to a local server, and to do that you want to put in the username. Well, you can connect it to local server or cloud. I'm going to do a local server here. Password, and you can ask it to save the password to the settings file if you want. And you can indicate the on-premise server, and you need to put an IP address of your on-premise server. Let's see if I have that. Yep. So there's my on-premise server. The other options are settings you can set to control the thresholds for import. So you may find, these are the defaults, you may find after the first import that it's not importing the faces, all the faces, it's putting more into the fail bucket than you'd like. You can change these, but that comes with the caution that this means you're lowering the quality bar of the images that you have in Safer, and that's going to reduce your ability to, in many cases, if you put in really poor quality images, you'll start to generate more false matches. So you typically want to try to stick with either the recommended or close to recommended thresholds of Safer. and work on improving your images as opposed to trying to pull in bad images. For instance, in some cases, the images might have dark shadows in the eye sockets. That's going to really have an impact on SAFER's ability to recognize with masks. And so you want to try to have well-lit, good source quality images. And there's a whole separate kind of training or information you can get on how to check the source of your quality of the source of your images. That's it. Don't worry about what's in Advanced tab. It's for debugging options for the most part. You're ready to go, so you can press Start, and you're going to see it generates a data output directory not found. Yeah, output file. Excuse me. And we'll generate that output file. I'm going to put this into a different folder so that we know what gets generated. And we're in that folder. We have our output file. And let's just make sure we have our input file too. That seems good. Or input directory. So I think we're ready to go. I'm going to hit Start. Okay, it generates this empty table. Don't worry about all these NaNs. It's just empty columns of data that it's outputting, and now it's processing each image file. It's doing this in analysis mode, so it's not putting any of the images into SAFER. It's simply processing. Now you can see what it generated. So we've got your images directory and your images fail directory. So all those images that were in this folder that said fail face are now moved to the other folder, and so you can, it makes it very easy to reprocess those. And the output files, first of all, generated in output CSV. This is just, as I said, that's the template that you can use to then fill in first name, last name, all the other metadata that SAFER accepts, and then reprocess. And this time you can uncheck the Analyze Only. You can actually import those images. And it also generates a similar file for the fail faces, and this is if assuming you either lower the threshold or do something to improve the quality of these images, and you can re-import those in the same way. And it also generates some information on the images that it processed. So the face metrics, for the ones that succeeded, it'll tell you information such as age, whatever, age, gender, the gender confidence, and then other information such as center pose, sharpness, quality, for the quality of those images. It also generates the same for the failed images, and this one is more important. You can go and look at understanding why the failed images failed. The very first column is going to tell you, or excuse me, the second column is going to tell you why the particular images failed. So this one, it was for size and center pose reasons. The second one's for size, center pose, and contrast reasons. You can go across and look at the actual value of center pose, which is the orientation of the face, and the sharpness and the contrast. So you can use that to identify why images failed. That's all the output files. Again, if you felt like, okay, now I've fixed my, or I've added my metadata to the output file, you can reprocess that, just simply saying, now this time, you still have the same folder of images, in this case for the successful images, let's say, and we're going to select the input file. So this time we're going to select the output CSV. So now you've filled in your metadata. You can uncheck the Analyze. You can leave the Move Quality, and then run Start, and that's going to now actually process and load those images, and it will still generate the same output metric files in the same location as that file that you're processing. So, and it'll add in the underscore fail and such. So that's the tool on the GUI. To show you on the command line that it's basically the same tool, and that's it running here. You just launch it by running the SAFER People Importer exe, and it's basically the same application, same UI. And finally, the command line version of it. You see here, we are in the builds directory. So you can see I'm in this builds directory for the Mac. And in here, you've got the application SAFER People Import. So you can run that, with a -H, and you can get help on it. It helps you print. Again, this is a compiled application, so all of the libraries need to load, so it's quite slow. If you run the, we're in the source directory now, import people source, so you have the Python script you can run, say for people import .py, and to do that I need to put Python in front of here. And if I do that, and if you don't put any arguments, you're just going to get a very brief help. Actually, it kind of spits out an error because at the end it says you didn't put any arguments. But if you put the -H, you can get all of the help as well. Okay, hope that was useful.